We researched the most popular IELTS writing tips and tricks so you don't have to. These are the 7 most popular IELTS writing tips and tricks, and our students here are going to demonstrate them for you so you will know if they improve your score or lower your score. And if they lower your score, we're going to show you exactly what to do on the page so that you can improve your writing and get the score that you need to. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Tip number 1. What's tip number 1? This is the most popular tip that you'll find online.
High-level vocabulary will improve your score?
So is this tip actually correct? Is using lots of high-level vocabulary, is it a good tip? Will it improve your score or will it lower your score? If you go to one of the most popular IELTS videos on YouTube, it has more than 7 million views at the time of recording. This video tells you exactly that. Use lots of high-level words and you'll improve your score. So guys, I don't know whether you're aware, but all words in the English language are divided into A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2. A1, A2 are words that beginner English learners can use. B1, B2, those are words that an intermediate student would be able to use. And C1, C2, those are words that only experts or expert users or expert learners would be able to use. What it says exactly in the video is if you use most of the words which are C1, C2, definitely you will get higher bands. Sounds right, sounds logical. Let's find out if it actually does improve your score. So I've got a little challenge for you. I've researched the most high-level words given in this YouTube video. I'm going to give one of you a list of these words, and I want you to write an introduction, just trying to use as many of these words in your introduction as possible. And one of you, I just want you to write normally, not trying to include lots of high-level words. We're going to see who writes the better introduction, okay?
Cool. Okay.
And at home, you can also do this. I've included that list of words and the questions in a little workbook for you, which you can download. It's in the description. You can download that workbook and you can play along with the 2 students here. We're also including lots of samples and structures and questions in that workbook as a little thank you. That's our gift to you. So you can download that in the description. So I've given you each the same question. I've given you a list of the top 10 words, the big high-level words. What I want you to do is write your introduction using as many of those words as possible, and you just write the introduction normally. So here are the 2 paragraphs. Quickly have a look and think which one is better, which one would get a higher score. Don't worry, we've put these into the workbooks for you as well. You can download and have a look at them. But I want you to really think about why would one get a higher score than the other. So I'm going to reveal which one would get the higher score in a minute. I'm going to give you some feedback on your introductions. But before we do, let's have a look and see what the British Council and IDP have to say about this tip. So if we look at the marking criteria for vocabulary for Band 9, it says uses a wide range of vocabulary with very natural and sophisticated control of lexical features. Lexical features is a fancy way of saying vocabulary. Now what it doesn't say is it doesn't say use lots of C1 and C2 words. That's not what it does say at all. But let's talk about the key word in that sentence, which is natural. What does natural actually mean? So another way of saying natural would be, how would a native English speaker talk? All right, would a native English speaker use really high-level words to write that introduction, or would they use different words? And if we look at Band 6 in the marking criteria, what it says is attempts to use less common vocabulary, but with some inaccuracy. And this is probably the most common band score for most students. If you look at the data, Band 6 is probably the most common. And what it's really saying is the examiner looks at your essay and they see that you're trying to use more advanced words, but you're making lots of mistakes. So you're attempting to use higher level words, but unsuccessfully. So what the criteria is saying, the difference between Band 9 and Band 6 and what you should do to move from, say a Band 6 up to a Band 7, 8, or even 9, is you need to have a balance between the level of words that you're using. You should use some high-level words. You should have a good range, but you need to balance that with accuracy. There's no point in putting in big, complicated words if there's spelling mistakes or meaning mistakes or other mistakes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
It does.
So now let's look at what IDP say. IDP say about this? Writing is a means of communicating your thoughts to the reader. This is extremely important because they're saying it's not a vocabulary test, it's a writing test. Why are you actually writing? You're writing to show that when you move to London or you move to New York and you get a job there and you're writing an email or you're writing a letter to someone or whatever you're doing, can they understand you? So it's not about you, it's about the reader. It's about when the person reads your email or reads your letter, can they understand what you're saying? Okay. So if you're using lots of high-level vocabulary and making lots of mistakes, is that going to be good for the reader or not so good?
It's counterproductive.
Yeah. And it also says, therefore, make use of vocabulary that is easy to understand. Which is easier to understand? Lots and lots of big, complicated words or just normal words that convey meaning correctly?
I think the latter.
Yeah.
And we'll see in your essays in a minute. Also, it says only use words you can spell, because if you memorize lots of big words, what's going to happen? You won't fully understand them and you'll make spelling mistakes. And if you make a spelling mistake, it doesn't improve your score if you have a big word, it actually lowers your score. It's only going to improve your score if you use it correctly. And most of the students learning this tip are not capable yet of using that vocabulary. So it's very counterproductive, as you said. Risky, yeah, it's risky. I also did something really interesting. I took hundreds of hours of interview footage with real Band 7, 8 and 9 success stories from our VIP course, and I uploaded them into AI called Notebook LM. Notebook LM is from Google and it allows you to search through thousands of pages. We actually got to the limit of Word docs. I didn't know that existed.
Oh, wow.
But it actually said you can't write anymore. But Notebook LM allows you to easily search that. So we asked Notebook LM, did a single student say that fancier words improved their score? And Notebook LM said, no, a single student did not say that using fancier words improved their score. On the contrary, the sources indicate that many students and instructors found the opposite to be true. Attempting to use fancier or more complex vocabulary often hindered their scores or led to lower results. So not just IDP, not just British Council, but the actual students that were in your position, that were at a Band 6, were at a Band 7, and then moved up to the score that they needed, this is the advice that they are giving you too. And remember the question I gave you? It was actually from these books, these Cambridge books. So Cambridge, the people who write the IELTS test, the people that own the IELTS test, they produced an essay in response to the same question. They got their examiners to write the essay, and they said it's very good. What we did was we took that essay produced by Cambridge and we put it through some software that analyzes all the words in it, and it shows you how many C1, C2, the very smart people at Cambridge, what percentage of their words in the essay do you think are C1 and C2?
Maybe 60, 70% at least.
I would say 20.
20?
Yeah.
So 20%, 60%. So
yeah.
Pretty high. Let's have a look. 95% of their words are not high level. So
really?
95% of their words are A1, A2, B1, B2. Only 5% are C1 and none of them were C2. So what does all of that tell you? Is this tip correct? Use lots of high-level words?
It's a complete opposite, as a matter of fact.
What I've also done is I've taken 100 Band 7, 8 and 9 real sample essays from our VIP students, put them into one PDF for you, and you can download them. Just go to the description or the link in the pinned comment, and you can download those right away for free. It's our gift for you. So let's have a look at your actual introductions. Let's play along at home. Which ones did you think were better? So if we have a look at yours first, what I can say about your introduction is all of your vocabulary is accurate. So you've used some higher level words, but the vast majority of your words, like the Cambridge essay, the vast majority of your words are A1, A2, B1, B2. And if we look at any of these books, take any of these books off the shelf, we could open any page and read any paragraph. The vast majority of the words in any book are going to be A1, A2, B1, B2. Because that's how every language, that's how Hindi works. That's how English works. That's how Vietnamese works. You only use high-level words when you have to. Because clear writing is simple writing. Now let's look at your... So it's not your real introduction. We forced you to use this many words. So your first sentence, I can't ever say this word. So your first sentence, the proliferation of increased life expectancy. So what does proliferation mean? Does it actually mean what you think it means there?
No, I just like the word, so I thought I might as well use it.
So it means a rapid and often excessive increase in something, like the proliferation of nuclear weapons. Like there's too many nuclear weapons. Are there too many of the thing that you're mentioning here? And what are you talking about here?
The increase of life expectancy.
Yeah, so it's actually saying there's too much life expectancy. Would we talk about old people in that way?
No, yeah, you're right.
It sounds like overly dramatic. And it would be very obvious to an examiner that you have just copied that word from some list and stuck it in there. So it doesn't actually mean what you think it means. So that's wrong. Even though it's spelled correct, the grammar is correct, the meaning is incorrect.
Yeah.
And now, is now a ubiquitous fact in the modern world. Why do you think that's wrong?
I thought it kind of meant that it's everywhere, but I guess in the context of this situation, it's not the case.
Is it the case that this is happening everywhere in every country, in every part of that country?
No.
All over the world?
No.
So again, is it accurate?
No.
And we can summarize that by just saying that there's spelling mistakes in there, but most of the time you're just trying too hard by including words that don't mean what you think they mean. All right. Just because a word is complex or high level doesn't actually get you the score. So the next tip, this is the second most popular tip. What is it?
Linking words will improve your score.
So let's find out, do using lots of linking words improve your score or not? So linking words are often called linkers or cohesive devices, but basically what this tip is saying is the more you use them and the more advanced your linking words are, the higher your score. Is this actually true? So what I did was I had a look at Google and I Googled IELTS linking words and I found the most popular article at the top of Google, and they say they need more connecting words for IELTS higher band descriptors. So it's very, very clear what they're saying. Well, let's see if that is actually true. So what I've also done is I've looked at the most popular YouTube video on this topic, and they say to get a higher score in IELTS writing, you must use some more formal linking words. When they say formal, they mean advanced or academic. So they're saying exactly the same thing. So the most popular article and the most popular YouTube video are all saying to you, use lots of linking words and make them advanced, make them formal, make them academic, and that's going to magically boost your score. Is this actually true? I'm going to give you a challenge again. I want you to continue your essay, write the first main body paragraph. You are going to write it normally, and you are going to include as many different of these most popular linking words as you can in your essay. And these are the same linking words that I found in these articles and in these videos. What they're saying is you should probably get a higher score than you. So let's have a look at your sample essays and see what you did. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 linking words in one paragraph.
Yeah.
So would an examiner notice that? And why would they notice it?
They probably would. Because it feels like I'm trying to stretch out my answer a bit and just add words that don't do anything to the substance.
That's a good point. One of the reasons why students love these linking words is they're afraid that they won't go over 250 words. They're like, I know these things, I've memorized these things, let's just put them in and that'll get us over 250 words. But the problem with that strategy is it's not a word count test. It's not how many words can you write. Is the collection of those words leading to a clear essay. So if we have a look at all of the linking words here, you'll find all of these errors. So you can see the vast majority of the linking words have some kind of problem with them. We've also included that in the PDF in the more detailed explanation on each one. So if you want that, just download it. You can read it at home at your leisure. So where in your essay or in your paragraph here did you decide to put a linking word?
Over here, I said for instance.
Why did you do that?
Because I wanted to give an example.
So that's an example of an accurate and appropriate. So it's accurate because the meaning is correct, and you've spelt it correctly, but it's also appropriate because you're giving an example and you said, for instance, or for example, here's an example. But if you look at the rest of your paragraph, you didn't try and put them in everywhere.
Yeah.
But is your essay or is your paragraph clear, easy to understand? I would say absolutely yes. We don't need to put anything in. So let's see what the official marking criteria and British Council and the IDP says about this. So if we look at the official marking criteria, it says for band 9 for coherence and cohesion, that's really interesting what they say here. It says uses cohesion in such a way that attracts no attention. In other words, if a native English speaker was reading your essay, they wouldn't notice any of the linking words at all. So they wouldn't look at it and think, why are they including so many of these types of words? They would read it and they wouldn't even notice it. Like if they're reading a newspaper in English or they're reading one of these books, no native English speaker would read a paragraph in that book and they go, why did they put moreover and in conclusion and therefore and it's too much? So what an examiner does is they look at your essay for band 9, they're like, I'm not even noticing any of the linking words. That should give you a clue. Does including lots of linking words actually improve your score? And if we look at what the British Council says, they go into even more detail on their website, and it says don't overuse linking words. So it's pretty clear what the British Council are saying. And this is directly opposite to what the most popular YouTube video and the most popular blog say about using these. The British Council also says, or use them inappropriately. So what does inappropriate mean? Inappropriate is slightly different from inaccurate. Inaccurate means that the spelling is wrong or the meaning is wrong. Inappropriate means that you're normally overusing them. You don't really need to use them there. So this is a problem with people who try and insert them a little bit too much.
So keep it more natural, basically.
Exactly. They also say don't always use linking words at the beginning of sentences. Again, the British Council is being very clear here. The reason why they're saying that is because the examiners at the British Council see this every single day, where they read essays and at the beginning of every sentence, it has a linking word in there. And the reason why many students do this is because they memorize templates. And the templates will have basically the linking word at the beginning of every sentence, and then it'll say insert idea or insert explanation or insert example. This is why people who memorize templates end up getting a band 5 or a band 6. And if we go to the IDP website, it only shows the simplest linking words. It gives you linking words, but it only shows the simplest ones. So why would IDP, who make the test and hire the examiners to score your essay, why would they give you that? And if we go back to the marking criteria and have a look for band 6 for coherence and cohesion, it says uses cohesive devices effectively, but cohesion within or between sentences may be faulty or mechanical. So what does that mean? So faulty means you're using them inappropriately or inaccurately. Mechanical means that you are inserting them kind of robotically. So start of every sentence, put one in. Middle of sentence, put one in. So you're just acting like a robot and putting them in at every opportunity. And again, that's why templates have such problems. So we'll have a look at what Notebook LM said about hundreds of success stories. What did they say about linking words? So what it says was students improved their scores by moving away from the idea that more complex or numerous linking words equated to a higher score. So at home, which one do you think is better? This one. Sorry. So let's move on to tip number 3. This is the third most popular tip on IELTS Writing Task 2 that I could find on the internet.
Grammatical range will increase your score?
So what they're talking about when they talk about grammatical range is the complexity of your sentences. Are you using more complex sentences or simpler sentences? Or are you using more tenses, like a variety of different tenses, or just one tense throughout your whole essay? Or are you using a variety of different grammatical structures within your essay? Are you capable of doing that? And you'll often hear teachers debating whether range is more important. It's more important to have lots of tenses, lots of grammatical structures, lots of complexity, or is accuracy more important? How many grammatical errors are you making? Generally, it's like a balance between the two. So which one is more important? So your challenge is What I want you to do is take the same question. So you've got your introduction, main body paragraph 1, main body paragraph 2. I want you to write main body paragraph 2, but play it safe. I want you to focus on accuracy, not making any grammatical errors.
Okay.
What I want you to do is I'm going to give you a list of all the key tenses, so all the different tenses that you could use in the English language. And I'm also going to give you the essential grammar structures, so all the different grammatical structures that you could use in your essay. And what I want you to do is use as many of them as possible in that paragraph. Don't worry, at home, I've included it in the workbook, in the download, so you can get that in the PDF if you want to know what those are too. So let's have a look at YouTube and see what advice most teachers and most videos are given about this debate, whether it's range or whether it's accuracy. So if you go to YouTube and type in IELTS Task 2 tips, the number one video, the one right at the top, gives you advice on this, and it's very, very clear. They state variety is more important than accuracy. So it's very, very important what they're saying there. But if we look at the band descriptors, the official marking criteria, it makes it very, very clear that both are important, range and accuracy. So for band 9, for grammatical range and accuracy, it states, uses a wide range of structures with full flexibility and accuracy. So what it's saying there is one is not more important than the other, they're both important. And if we go down and look at band 7, it says produces frequent error-free sentences. This is really crucial that you understand what an error-free sentence is. What do you think an error-free sentence is?
Make no errors.
Make no errors at all, or no grammatical errors or vocabulary or spelling errors, or?
I think grammatical.
Yeah, so spelling isn't included in grammar. Meaning mistakes with vocabulary wouldn't be included. They would only include things like punctuation errors, tenses errors, subject-verb agreement, article, just grammar. So what it's actually telling us here is the importance of error-free sentences. So the more error-free sentences you have, the higher your score is going to be. That's absolutely crucial to understand that.
What does frequently produces mean?
Good question. So frequently means more than 50%.
Okay.
So an examiner should be able to look at your essay, literally count the number of sentences. So if there are 13 sentences in your essay, for a band 7, you would need at least 7 of them, more than 50%, to have 0 grammatical errors in them. But if you had, let's say, 8 or 9 sentences that even have a small punctuation error in them, you're not producing frequently error-free sentences. So we have all of these sources. The most popular video is saying range is more important. IDP, the British Council, the marking criteria are saying both are important. But what we have found is working with students day to day is if we tell students to increase the complexity of their sentences and include more complex grammar structures and tenses, what do you think happens?
Lowers your score.
In what way?
You'll make more errors.
Yeah, exactly. The more complex your sentence is, the more likely you are to make errors. IDP are also very, very clear about this on their website. They say uses a range of grammatical structures correctly. So they don't just say use a range of structures. They don't just say use as many structures as you want. They say use them correctly. But I think the most important evidence comes from our past success stories. So again, we asked Notebook LM, and this is what it says. Students frequently discussed their initial misconceptions and eventual understanding of using complex grammar in their IELTS essays. Many started with the belief that employing a high volume of complex vocabulary and intricate grammatical structures would impress examiners and lead to higher scores. However, this approach often proved to be counterproductive, leading to several negative outcomes: lower scores, increased mistakes, lack of clarity and coherence, time management issues, and frustration and demotivation. So if you want lower scores, increased mistakes, lack of clarity, time management issues, frustration, demotivation, and ultimately failing your test, try and make your grammar as complex as possible and see what happens. Or keep it simple. So if we look at your sample, there are 0 mistakes. Now, why do you think some students would be worried about writing the paragraph the way that you wrote it? There's no mistakes at all, but why would some students be worried about that? Why would they not want to follow what you did?
I think just the pressure of making it sound more complex gets to them, and they want to impress the examiner. And that's why they make it complicated and make errors.
Yeah, so they're worried about there's not enough range. So they're looking at these YouTube videos, they're listening to their local teachers, and they're saying range is really, really important. But the thing that we have always found is when we tell students, just do what you did, all we said was just make it as simple as possible. They naturally use a wide range of structures without even thinking about it. They do it naturally. So if we look at your sample here, there are complex sentences. For example, as people live longer, they naturally require more medical attention. So this is, first clause is dependent on the second. That's a complex sentence. There's relative clauses in there. Long-term care, which leads to increased government spending. Grandparents who may need this healthcare. Interactions they have with children, which fosters deep family bonds. We have complex sentences. You have relative clauses. You also have the passive voice in there. So by telling students, just keep it simple, you are reducing the number of errors and you're letting them show a variety of grammatical range structures anyway. But if we have a look at your sample, you will see that it is littered with errors. So it is more complex. The range is more. But the thing to know is that, let's say your range is technically at a band 9, but you've made so many errors that the accuracy is at a band 6. You don't get like the middle band between 9 and 6. You get a 6. So whatever the lowest of those two, range and accuracy, is, you will get that score. Remember we talked about error-free sentences? How many error-free sentences are on that page?
0.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the maximum you can get is a 6. Maximum. And if your grammar is at a 6, your coherence and cohesion is likely going to be closer to a 6 as well. Because what does coherence mean? It means, is your essay clear? Is that clear?
Not very, no.
No. The more mistakes, the less clear it is. It can also affect your task response. So task response is, did you answer the question correctly? I don't think for you, but for many of the students that we work with that have really poor grammar that they need to improve, there's so many grammatical errors that it's impossible for the examiner to really understand if you answered the question or not. And if they can't understand that, even though it's because of grammar, you get a very low score for task response. Did you answer the question? This advice of use as many structures as possible, it's not only lowering your grammar score, but can mess up the rest of your essay as well. So I hope none of you think that I'm making this video to prove that some teachers are right and some teachers are wrong. I'm trying to help the teachers. So if you are a teacher watching this, try and think about not what you find on the internet and just copying that, but what effect does it actually have on the classroom? So you might read something on a blog, you might watch a YouTube video, and you might copy that tip and teach it to your students, but always work with the students directly the way we're doing here. Look at the impact that tip has. Ask them, has this actually increased your score, and how do they feel about using that tip? So when I said to you, try and use as many different structures as possible, how did you feel?
Overwhelmed. And I just felt like I had to focus on that rather than the content of what I was saying.
Yeah, so many of the tips, again, I'm not criticizing teachers, but if you actually apply them in the classroom and ask students, how do you feel about this? Not only does it lower scores, but they feel things like they're overwhelmed, they're stressed. And do you want your students to feel overwhelmed and stressed in the classroom and fail their test? So always test it and see how it actually works in practice without just blindly copying it off the internet. Tip number 4 is the 4th most popular IELTS writing tip.
Repeating words lowers your score?
So again, what I did was I put this into YouTube, and the most popular YouTube video on this topic said, stop repeating vocabulary in IELTS speaking and writing. So very, very clear what they think on that. If you repeat words, it will lower your score. So let's check out what the official marking criteria says. We should always go to that document because that's the document the examiners use. It doesn't actually talk about repetition and repeating words until you get to band 4. So for band 4 for vocabulary, it states uses only basic vocabulary which may be used repetitively or which may be inappropriate for the task. Now, does that mean if you repeat a word, you get a band 4? What do you think?
No, not automatically.
I don't think so.
Okay, we'll find out. So what I've done is I've taken, remember the essay from Cambridge, and I put it into some software that shows the keyword density. So it takes words that are repeated many, many times, and this is what it shows. So people is repeated 10 times, population 4 times, longer 4 times, many, aging, older, many, many times. So the people at Cambridge are definitely saying, if you repeat a word, it's not a big deal. So if we just looked at the marking criteria and we looked at band 4, we interpreted that as if you repeat a word, you get a band 4. Every single one of our successful students would get a band 4 because there will always be at least one word that you will repeat. So what is the rule? How often is it okay to repeat words and which words are okay to repeat? So we took 100 of our band 7, 8 and 9 students' essays, and we put these 100 essays into the same software to identify if there are any words that are repeated again and again. The top 20 words make up 33.5% of all the words. These are words like a, and, at, the, very, very common words in the English language. And this isn't just the case for English. If you go and look at a book in Hindi, you will find some words are repeated again and again. All languages are the same. So somebody telling you, you can never repeat a word is going against language itself. That's how language works. There are certain words that have to be repeated again and again.
Shouldn't we worry about repeating words at all?
Good question. There are some words that you should try to vary. So what I'm going to do now is just teach you that rule so that you can be confident on test day and not worry about repeating words. Because the last thing we want is that you go into the test and you're consumed with worrying about all of these different things that you can and can't do. We want to just make it simple for you to just focus on writing and not have to think about all these things. So it often comes up where you see a question and you see a keyword in the question and you think, well, how do I avoid repeating that word? So for example, people is a very, very common word. So in general, you have 3 choices. Choice number 1 is you can change it to something that you're not sure if it's correct, but you think generally, it might be a synonym. So for people, that might be something like citizens. But depending on the context, citizens might be correct or it might be wrong. So citizens is more about the relationship a person has with the government. So a citizen of a country, whereas that might be wrong if you're just talking about, people's health. If you said something, citizens are, have less exercise than before. That's nothing to do with your relationship with the government. So that would actually be wrong. Or choice 2, you could just repeat the word. So you could just say people. Choice 2 is less wrong than choice 1. Choice 1 is just wrong. Choice 2 is not great because you could probably show the examiner that you know how to vary that a little bit more, but it is better to make a safe bet and to just repeat the word if you're not sure. The third choice is actually much better, and it's something that most people don't consider because they've been taught, we look back at tip 1, you must use high-level language. That's why people would put citizens in there. What you could do instead is just use a really, really simple word, something that 100% is correct. So what's a synonym of people that is really simple?
Humans, human beings.
Yep.
Or individuals.
Humans.
Crowd.
Or individuals. Yep. Humans maybe a little bit scientific sounding. But individuals, that would cover everything. So you have 3 choices in summary. Change it to something that you think is high level, but it's probably wrong. Just repeat the word. That's the second best choice because you're not showing a massive range, but you are not making mistakes either. It's a balancing act. But choice 3 is just think of the simplest one that you know, and we call this 100% rule. Only change the word if you are 100% sure that it is correct. So that way you're never making mistakes, you're never lowering your score because of errors, and you're staying safe. And the other thing is more strategic, is more tactical. If you see people in the question and you're thinking, how do I change people? My teacher told me that I can't repeat a word. What is happening?
You're wasting time.
Exactly. And
you're overwhelming yourself.
Yeah, it's wasting time and getting more stressed. 2 of the things that are nothing to do with the English language, they're nothing to do with writing, but they're everything to do with test strategy. Remember, it is a test at the end of the day. So we want to do things if we think very strategic, that minimize the chances of making a mistake, reduce the amount of time that it takes to make that decision, and increases the chances that we can just move on and keep going and get the score that we need. So that's why this 100% rule works really, really well. So would you say this tip is right or wrong? You can never repeat a word.
Wrong.
I think it depends on the reoccurrence of how many times are you using the word. So you have to consider that before you repeat it too many times.
Yeah, in general, it is wrong. You should try to vary your language as much as you can, but only as much as you can, which means 100% rule. So, number 5, who wants to open number 5?
Yeah, I got the last one.
A hook will increase your score.
Do you know what a hook is? Mm-hmm. What's a hook?
Something that baits you in, like a hook would, just to keep your attention for a longer period of time.
And where would you put it?
At the beginning.
Okay. So I want you to look at your introduction and think about, does your introduction actually need a hook? Would it improve your introduction?
Yeah, I think so.
It would improve it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So let's think about improving your introduction with a hook. So what I want you to do is I want you to hook me in by writing an amazing hook at the beginning, and then we'll have a look at what British Council and IDP say about hooks while you are writing. So when I searched Google and YouTube, I found a teacher who took this to a whole new level, and this is a very, very common way of teaching. And I'm not criticizing the teacher or the method. I'll help you teachers as well. I'll give you some advice on how to avoid this. But they have produced complete templates, and all the student has to do is just memorize the whole thing. There's lots of hooks at the beginning. There's lots of language they can memorize, and then just insert your ideas. But the hook seems to be very, very important here. So the important thing, if you're a teacher, is to think about why you're doing this. And I know where this comes from. You're trying to help the student because you think the templates are going to help them, and students want it. So you're a nice person, so you're going to give them what they want and you're going to try and help them. But what I can tell you from examiners is examiners are trained to spot these. And if you mark as many scripts as examiners do, you will see these again and again and again. And the examiner is allowed to give you 0 if they consider it just a complete fabrication. You're just memorizing an answer and giving it to them. So I know you're trying to help students, but you could be helping them fail the test. So be very, very careful with these.
So then why do people include hooks in their answers?
Well, I think hooks in general are to grab someone's attention. So it's like hooking a fish. So, but what I can tell you for sure is examiners do not need hooks because they are being paid. Only reason the examiner is looking at your essay is because they're being paid to do that. They would rather do anything else in the world than look at your essay. So by including a hook, you're not getting them to look at the fee that you paid is the hook.
Well said. Well said.
So let's have a look at what you did here.
Nowadays, life expectancy is skyrocketing.
Okay, does that add anything to your essay? Does it make it better?
Not really.
Does it make it worse in any way?
I feel like it's just unnecessary.
Yeah, and it's also repeating things. So
right,
it says
exactly.
It's skyrocketing and it is increasing.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so it's redundant, all right? But the other thing is, how did you feel when I said, now write a hook?
Confused.
And what would it do on test day?
I think it would overwhelm me, put me under pressure, and I'll waste time thinking of a hook.
Exactly. Hooks will not lower your score per se, but they will waste time and they will take up brain power that you could spend in other areas, and it actually can lead to mistakes. But the big thing is that the examiner sees them again and again and again, so they're just redundant, and you are basically waving a flag to the examiner saying, I don't know how to write an essay. So that's not a great way to start. So what does the marking criteria say about this? Well, some very, very interesting stuff. If you go to the marking criteria and look at band 0, well, number 1, it says if you did not attend. So if you slept in, if you got drunk the night before and were sleeping through the whole thing, you would get a band 0. Or if you don't write anything, so if you just show up and you literally fall asleep on the paper, you get a band 0. Or it says if you write a totally memorized response. So what it is saying is, a memorized response, which includes templates and hooks and things, is as good as falling asleep and writing nothing.
Oof.
Why do you think that is?
It didn't require any skill. You're just regurgitating information.
Exactly. Memorization and writing and communicating are not the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the same thing at all. It's the opposite to what they're actually testing. Because if you move to New York or you move to London and your boss says, can you write an email? Are you going to go, I just need to go and find some templates and memorize this thing?
Yeah.
You know, they would fire you on the spot because you're demonstrating that you can't actually communicate in English. And if we have a look at what IDP say, they say, don't use any memorized language, phrases, or examples throughout your essay. They're easy for examiners to spot and don't demonstrate your ability to write fluently. So, is this a good tip?
No.
Nope.
No. Tip number 6, second to last one. This is an interesting one, very controversial one.
Oh, we like controversial. Idioms will increase your score?
What do we think? Increase or decrease?
Increase.
Increase?
No, wait.
I think.
If used,
Told you it was controversial.
if used sparingly and when appropriate,
Okay.
can be good, but too much of a risk to take to just throw in there and hope for the best. So if it's a general thing, then maybe no.
Let's see. If you type idioms into YouTube, you'll find lots of videos. One of the most popular ones is like 40 awesome idioms. And this is specifically for IELTS writing. So this teacher is definitely indicating that idioms are awesome and you should use them in your writing, but is that actually good advice or not? So let's finish our essay with a great conclusion. I'm going to give you a list of idioms, all the most common idioms that I could find on YouTube, the ones that lots of people are suggesting improve your score. Include as many of them as you can in your conclusion. You just write your conclusion normally.
Okay.
So you've both finished your conclusions?
Yeah.
Let's see what the marking criteria says about idioms. Well, the marking criteria actually says nothing about idioms. It's silent on idioms. But the speaking criteria talks a little bit about them. And that's where the clue is. But the speaking criteria doesn't talk about idioms. It talks about idiomatic language. And this is where the confusion comes from. They interpret that as idiomatic language, band 8, means use lots of idioms and you'll get a high score. The problem is that is just for speaking, and idiomatic language doesn't mean use lots of idioms. And if we look at the IDP website, when it talks about their guide to IELTS writing, it is 100% clear. It states don't use idioms. So again, this is not me attacking teachers, it's me trying to help the teachers. If you see something that on the surface looks like, oh, this is going to help students, actually dig a little bit deeper and look at the meaning of words that you might be a little bit unsure of. And if you look at idiomatic language, for example, you will find that it doesn't just mean idioms, and it is only really applicable to speaking, not to writing. And if we look at your conclusion, are there any problems with your conclusion?
Yes. Way too many idioms. Goes around in circles, not really getting anywhere.
There's a lot of cliches in there, like all in all, every coin has two sides, a double-edged sword. These are overused and redundant.
Yeah.
You've also misused the icing on the cake. Icing on the cake means that it's attractive but inessential. So icing on the cake is like we don't need this. It's not essential, but it's nice to have. You know.
Sure.
But you've misunderstood the meaning and talked about it being like primary. You'll see a lot of students write things like nowadays, in modern life, day by day, in this day and age, part and parcel. Again, we need value per word. It's not actually adding any value. It's just cliche, meaningless filler. And if we compare that with your conclusion, every single word, every single sentence is adding value to the reader. If we think about what a conclusion is, it should help the reader understand your point of view and your opinion just by clearly summarizing that in a conclusion. So instead of having to wade through all of these cliches and idioms and things that don't really mean anything, you've just said like, this is exactly what I think. That makes the reader happy. Happy examiners normally give higher scores than examiners that have a headache. So well done. So all in all, are idioms a good idea in writing task 2?
It's a complete opposite, as a matter of fact.
Last but not least, using a little overused cliche there.
You must write more than 250 words.
The answer to this is yes and no. So a few years ago, you had to go over 250 words. If you wrote 249, you automatically got a lower score. Not many people know this, but they did away with that. So if you're just under, but you write a great essay, you should be fine. But we never tell students that. Don't tell anybody. We shouldn't be saying this. The reason why we never say that to people is like, it doesn't matter. Is if you say that to someone, again, this is thinking about strategically in the classroom. Students interpret that, or a lot of students interpret that as it doesn't matter. And really it does. So the sweet spot is, if your essay is around 260 to 300, normally that's quite a good essay.
But my essay, if it's over 300, is that a problem?
Again, yes and no. So yours is about 330, 340. So you're about 10% over what we would recommend. So it's not a huge deal. But what we have found is when students start to go over 300, two things happen. One, the obvious one, they start to run out of time. Remember, you're not just doing task 2, you also have to do task 1 writing. So if you start to write like 350, 400 words, you're eating into that time that you should be dedicating to task 1. And the second reason is, once you go over 300, you're not giving yourself enough time to check your work. And you can also start to make a lot more mistakes, start to go off on tangents. So again, it's this tactical way of thinking about the test, is if you 260 to 300, you've got the best of both worlds. You wrote enough, but you also have time to check your work, correct any mistakes, and then move on to task 1 if you haven't done task 1 yet. Don't think in terms of 250. When you're practicing, count the number of words, and if it's between like 260 to 300, not exactly, but in and around there, then you're in the sweet spot. Okay?
Yeah.
If you want more help with writing, choose this video. And if you want help with speaking, choose this video.